to ask you, what is communication? What you understand with the word communication? I don't expect a perfect definitions, but yes, anything that comes into your mind when you hear this word communication. Discuss between two persons. Okay. All right. Yes, Vivek. Anybody else? Communication is the exchange of thoughts and points of views between two bodies. Okay. Conversation between two persons. Yes, Ali, right. Okay, so we understand what is communication. So communication is the exchange of messages, right? Exchange of messages, it's basically sharing the information, right? So every communication, we know that every communication needs at least one sender, a message, and a recipient, right? So to transfer information from one place to other, to transfer some information from one person to another person, right? To one group to another group, right? We need a message, we need a sender, and a recipient, right? This may sound very simple, that communication is all about a sender, receiver, and a message, right? So it's just the transmission of the message from a sender to a recipient, right? But this may sound simple, but communication is actually a very, very complex subject, right? So the transmission of the message from sender to recipient can be affected by a huge range of things. So it sounds simple, but it's not simple at all, right? So whom you consider is a good communicator, what qualities you look for or you look in a good communicator. Whom do you think aapke hisab se that person is a good communicator because he possesses or she possesses that particular skill? Kisko aap acha communicator you consider? It's about communication, and like I said, sender and receiver, and you are my receiver, so I expect some answers. Okay, good command in language. Okay, so you consider a person a good communicator, one who can speak good language, any language, right? Okay. Who else? So according to him, a good communicator is one who can speak any language, right? Any good language, right? A good communicator is someone who can express his message, thoughts with clarity. Perfect, Yogesh. Yes. A good communicator is someone who can express his ideas, his intentions, and thoughts clearly, emotions clearly, right? Yeah, who wait to listen to the other person, right? Absolutely. A good communicator has to be a good listener, an active listener, somebody who listens thoroughly. Yes, Subrajit, that's right. Okay, a good listener, an active listener, a person who speaks, not only speaks, but listens actively and listen carefully is a good communicator. It's a good quality of an effective communicator. Yes, very good. A person who has a good convincing power. Yes, we can say that an effective communicator has the ability to convince others, to motivate others. Yes, definitely. Right. So I'm getting the right answers, right? So we are on the same page. You understand what is effective communication, right? Right. So you are smart students, right? You understand things. Okay. So every communication, like we know that we need one sender, one message, and a recipient, right? And like I said, it's not a simple thing, right? So the complexity is why good communication skills are considered so desirable by employers around the world, right? When we know how to put across our emotions, our ideas, our intentions clearly, we are effective communicators, right? We all know how to communicate, but we actually don't know how to communicate effectively and efficiently, right? We know हमें बात कैसे करना है, but हमें अपने ideas, emotions, intentions कैसे सामने रखना है clearly, with clarity. That is important, and that's where effective communication comes into the picture. So effective communication and communication, they are two different things. We know how to communicate, but do we communicate effectively in our personal life, in our professional life, right? Do we communicate effectively? How many of you think that you communicate effectively? And when you communicate, आपको लगता नहीं है, लोग ऐसा बोलते हैं बाद में कि sorry, I didn't understand, or you end up saying no, I didn't mean that, I was saying something else, I was trying to say something else. ऐसा आप लोगों को कभी यूज नहीं करना पड़ता, एंड यू पुट अक्रॉस योर थिंग्स वेरी क्लियरली, योर इमोशंस, इंटेंशंस एंड एवरीथिंग. कितने लोग हैं जो सोचते हैं दैट दे थिंक दे आर गुड कम्युनिकेटर्स, इफेक्टिव कम्युनिकेटर्स, और लोग उनको मिसअंडरस्टूड नहीं करते. They put across their things very clearly. Okay. All right. Anybody else? Yogesh. All right. Very good. Okay. That's great. Okay. So effective communication is a process, again, like the communication is exchanging of ideas, your thoughts, your knowledge, information, right? Whenever you'll be working or whenever you'll be in your professional life, you'll be exchanging ideas, you'll be exchanging thoughts, you'll be exchanging knowledge, you'll be exchanging information, right? So this is the process of exchanging information. But the effective communication comes into the picture, how you communicate that message, right? Are you able to, put across your purpose or intention clearly? If your purpose is fulfilled in the best possible manner, what you expected, in simple words, it's nothing but the presentation of your views, right? So any sender who can express themselves very clearly, right, or with clarity, or he or she understood by the receiver in a way which he expects or she expects, right? So suppose I'm the sender, I initiate the process of communication by sending some message, right? But the message is delivering in same manner which I'm expecting. क्या आप लोग वैसा ही समझ रहे हैं जैसा मैं assume कर रही हूँ या जैसा मेरे mind में चल रहा है कि आपको समझ आ रहा है, right? यहाँ पर effective communication में problems आते हैं क्योंकि as a sender person thinks के the people are understanding in the same manner, right? So there are so many factors which are responsible, or I can say there are barriers in effective communication. Right. We always hear about, how communication is imperative in any successful relationship, not only your professional life, not only in the corporate world, not only in your careers, but in your personal life also, in your personal relationships also. Effective communication is imperative. It's very important. Right. So did you realize that the idea transcends into the workplace as well? Similarly, it also, the effective communication is equally important in your professional life also. Right? So communication in the workplace, communication in the corporate world is the simplest way to avoid potential conflicts. You can resolve conflicts, you can solve problems if you are a good communicator, if you are an effective communicator. No, not a good communicator. If you are an effective communicator, you can avoid conflicts, you can resolve conflicts, you can solve problems. So importance of effective communication in the workplace, in the corporate life is cannot underestimated, right? By all means, it's not a dark art. We can understand the types of communication, how we have to communicate effectively in the workplace. We will try to find out the tips and tricks so that we can learn how to communicate effectively whenever we'll be hitting our professional life or whenever you'll be working. You should know how to communicate effectively, right? So you don't need to read hundreds of communication in the workplace articles, right? So better to get the order right, you have to understand the basic thing. I'll give you a very simple example. I was reading it somewhere. Like if I tap some melody, right? So are you able to guess it? Can I try this? Can you guess the melody if I tap the melody with my fingers? Are you ready to guess the melody if I try to tap it with my fingers? Okay, Tane, right, all right. Can you guess it? Want me to try again? Want me to tap it again? Yes. No? Just tell me yes or no. Are you able to guess the melody? Are you able to guess the song? No? but the melody is playing in my head when I was tapping my fingers. I am a sender. The message is very clear. The melody is very clear in my brain. And I'm expecting that you should understand the melody. It's so simple, right? Because the melody is there in my head. It's, it's playing in my head. So it sounds, it looks very simple for me, or I can expect my listeners, or I can expect my audience that they should guess. It's very easy because the melody is already here. It's playing in my head, right? So I can, what in the communication, the same thing happens. The sender expects the receiver or the person who's listening to you that he or she will receive the message. क्योंकि आपके दिमाग में मैसेज है, मेरे दिमाग में वो सॉन्ग था, मैं टैप कर रही थी, तो मुझे लग रहा था कि यू शुड गेस दिस, इट्स वेरी सिंपल. बट आप यहाँ से ब्लैंक हो, आपको वो मेलोडी नहीं पता है जो मेरे दिमाग में चल रही है. सो मेरी टैपिंग मुझे समझ में आ रही है, बट आपको नहीं समझ में आएगी क्योंकि दैट मेलोडी इज नॉट देयर. Getting my point? So same thing happens with your communication when you transfer any message. So आपका मैसेज यहाँ क्लियर होता है and you expect the same from the receiver कि वो वैसे ही समझेगा जैसा आपके दिमाग में चल रहा है. But it doesn't happen. ऐसा नहीं होता है क्योंकि the person who's receiving your message वो आपकी तरह से नहीं सोच रहा है. Getting my point? उसके दिमाग में कोई मेलोडी नहीं चल रही है, तो आप कितना भी टैप कर लो, उसके दिमाग में वो मैसेज नहीं आना है. Getting my point? So you have to understand कि रिसीवर आपका दिमाग भी पढ़ रहा है, आपके वर्ड्स पढ़ रहा है, लाइक आपका ये टैपिंग समझने की कोशिश कर रहा है. So similar thing happens when we talk about the effective communication. Effective communication में भी ये सेम चीज होती है. हम एक्सपेक्ट करते हैं, हम अज्यूम करते हैं कम्युनिकेशन में, एंड दैट्स रॉन्ग. You should not assume in communication. Why is communication important in the workplace? Like I told you कि आप conflicts resolve कर सकते हो, you can handle problems, you can solve problems if you are a good communicator or if you are an effective communicator, right? So like you are, sitting in a cafeteria, you're sitting with your colleagues, you are talking to your boss, you're talking to your reporting manager, and if you know how to put across your things, how you put across your ideas, how you put across your emotions, how to put across your problems. So if you know how to communicate effectively and efficiently, you'll be less stressed, you can solve problems, right? If I give you an example, Tom and Judy, they are two employees, or they are fighting on some report, right? Okay, Tom claims that Judy didn't send him the quarterly report and report that he needs to read over and revise before the deadline, because the deadline is there and Tom has to read and revise the report and send it further. But Judy claims that she did, and back and forth they go. So they fight. So this fight, this conflict could be avoided if Tom and Judy understood the appropriate ways to communicate with each other, right? So communications can solve so many problems, right? Communication say you can solve, there are thousands of problems at workplace, in your personal life, in your professional life, but the things can be solved if you are a good communicator, right? If you are an effective communicator. So effective communication is necessary. We all know how to communicate. हम बचपन से बात करते आ रहे हैं, हमें communication करना आता है. We know how to send messages. We know how to receive messages. Like one of you was saying कि active listening. Like you said, active listening is important. Yes, communication is not all about speaking. Right? It's not all about speaking. But आप बोल रहे हो, that is communication. The person who speaks good is a good communicator. No, the person who listens carefully, the person who's an active listener, is actually a good communicator. So agar if you have to divide the communication percentage wise, like 60% we should speak and 40% we should listen, or 60% we should listen and 40% we should speak. So आपके हिसाब से कौन सा category effective communication में fall करेगा? ज़्यादा बोलना या ज़्यादा सुनना? To hear more, to listen more, or to speak more? Speak more. Okay. Okay, Sarthak. Anybody else? To hear more. Okay. Yes, Akansha. Ali, both equally important, Ali. Okay. And listen more, Vivek. All right. See, an effective Bhagwan ne hame kaise diya hai? How God has given us 2 ears and 1 mouth. So use it accordingly. Listen more and speak less. Right? The person who speaks less, can observe things, can understand things better. But again, sometimes you have to go with the flow. If there's a need where you have to speak more and listen less, definitely you have to go with the flow. There is not a fixed ratio that I can give you. No, 60% you have to listen and 40% you have to speak. No, it's not like that. It's not fixed. But the more you listen, there are chances of, I would say, less errors or galtiyan kam hongi. You won't end up in so many conflicts. It's better to listen more, listen actively, listening carefully. Okay, can you tell me the difference between listening? Depends on the situation. Yes, right. Sometimes we have to speak more, right? Okay. Okay, all right. Give me one example. Sorry, not example. Tell me what is the difference between hearing and listening? What is the difference? Hearing and listening, what do you think there's a difference? Is there any difference or they're same? If there is difference, what's the difference? Yes. Listening and hearing me. Listening is to actively pay attention and okay, Akansha. And beta, what is hearing then? What is hearing then? Hearing क्या होता है? Listening is okay. हम ध्यान से सुन रहे. Hearing is the process or function. Okay, जिसके साथ हम पैदा हुए, right, Ankit? It's a feature, right? इस feature के साथ हम पैदा हुए. It's a sense of organ, right? We hear. Like if I throw this remote here, you hear the sound or you listen to the sound. Just to hear things and listening is to actively be. Yes. So in simple words, if I say, hearing is a feature which we are born with. If we are not hearing impaired, we'll hear. Yeah, hearing is through ears, but listening is through the mind. Very good. Yes, Ali. Right. So listening is something that we consciously choose to do. Listening एक ऐसा process है जब हम चाहते हैं हम तभी सुनते हैं. Right? When we consciously decide, when we is observation. Yes, when we listen, we observe. And when we listen, we learn also. Right? When we speak things that we already know. जो बातें हम already जानते हैं, हम वो बोलते हैं. But when we listen new things, not all the time, but yes, most of the time we can learn new things. We listen new things, new ideas, new opinions and everything, right? So listening is hearing is something that there is a sound of AC I can hear. There's some background noises also there. So I cannot help it. I cannot. But listening is something like you students are here. If you don't want to listen to me, you can. We hear the birds chirping, right, Ankit? Very well said. So similarly, like there are 26 students, 26 we have students who are participating in the webinar. Ab isme se I can't say because I can't see you non-verbally as well because your cameras are off. I can't see your faces. So the non-verbal communication is missing, right? And you are typing the messages. So those who are typing the messages, I'm getting, I can see the names. So I know that these students are actively listening, right? They're listening to me because they're responding. I'm getting the feedback. I'm getting the answers from them. So that means they're listening because I can't see you nodding your head. I can't see you making an eye contact. There is no non-verbal communication from your end. So when you are messaging me, it helps me to motivate to keep, to keep speaking, to keep going on, right? Because I'm getting the answers, right? Because we teachers are not bloggers, right? So we cannot speak to a blank laptop screen. We need some motivation or the students answers to carry on. So the students who are answering, they are actually giving me the feedback that they are listening, right? If I don't get any message, so that will give me a message that the students are not listening. Maybe they are not with their systems. They have logged in the meeting and they're gone out, right? So we have to give feedbacks if we are listening. So non-verbally, because here non-verbal is completely missing. So verbally you can give the message that, yes, ma'am, we are listening. So conveying a message effectively is an art. It's a skill developed after continuous practice and experience. So if I say कि मुझे effective communicator बनना है and overnight I can be an effective communicator. No, it's not possible, right? Continuous practice and experience. So it's not an overnight process. You need efforts, you need practice, you need continuous practice. And then you will be an effective communicator. Observance, like you said, when we listen, we observe. Observance, a person must possess sharp observing skills to gain more and more knowledge and information. If you listen and you observe, right? Clarity and I would say brevity. The message must be drafted in simple words. If you are a good communicator, you are a clear communicator, you are an effective communicator. So if you're writing your message, if you're writing an email to your boss, if you're writing a report, so your message must be drafted in a very simple words. It should be very clear, it should be very precise, it should be like the moment the person read your subject line will understand that what is this email is all about. Right, so it will give the desired impact over the receiver. जैसे आज मैं effective communication आपको समझाना चाह रही हूँ. This is my, desired result, which I want from my receivers, that they should understand that this is effective communication. We have not been effectively communicating. We have been communicating since birth. जब से पैदा हुए हैं हम लोग communicate तो कर रहे हैं, but effectively communicate कितना कर रहे हैं? We can't say that, right? So clarity. And if we want to become an effective communicator, we should listen, we should understand. The most crucial skill is listening. आपको लगता होगा listening is the easiest thing that one can do and one can learn. No, this is the most crucial skill in a person. Is he must be a good, alert and patient listener, because listening needs patience. One must be able to understand and interpret the message well. Your emotional intelligence, अगर आप सुनते में ही गुस्सा हो गए, you don't have an emotional, quotient, you are not emotional, you are not able to control your emotions. आपका ऑफिस में कोई प्रॉब्लम हुआ, you listen to that problem, और जो भी conflict हुआ, and you start reacting. So a person must be emotionally aware, and he or she has the ability to, to decide or to choose to respond instead of reacting, right? Self-confidence. Essential communication skills is, gives you a self-confidence which enhances the worthiness of the message. कि जो मैंने बात बोली वो सामने वालों को समझ में आई. Like you said, किसी ने आपने से बोला था convincing skills, right? Respectfulness. All these things comes with effective communication. Your non-verbal communication. To connect with the receiver in a better way, I have to involve, with the verbal and the non-verbal communication, with both, with my gestures, facial expression. If I turn off my camera right now, you won't be able to connect. आप connect नहीं कर पाओगे, right? So your gestures, your facial expressions, your eye contact, your postures, every non-verbal communication is very important and is very crucial in effective communication. Right. So similarly in your corporate life, because we have two sessions on this topic, so I'm just giving you a brief of effective communication today. And in the next session, we'll be discussing about the tips and tricks and how we can become an effective communicator. हम कैसे effective communicator बन सकते हैं? And we'll give you some examples. I'll give you some examples कि कैसे you can solve problems, you can resolve conflicts, and you can, grow in your success if you are an effective communicator. Right. So communication in the workplace is the simplest way to avoid potential conflict. Like I said earlier as well, अगर आपको conflicts avoid करने हैं, so you have to be an effective communicator, because the importance of communication in the workplace is often underestimated. लोगों को लगता है कि नहीं, we don't need any effective communication. We communicate effectively. हर किसी को लगता है कि वो effectively communicate करता है. Why? Okay. So the importance of communication in the workplace cannot be underestimated. So we should know that we can understand the types of communication, that कितने types का communication है, हमें verbal करना होता है communication, कई बार telephone पे we have to communicate, sometimes in writing we have to communicate. So क्यों लगता है कि corporate life में when you will hit the corporate world or when you start working, आपका effective communication बहुत important है और आपके बहुत काम आएगा, the course that you are doing. Why do you think that effective communication in your workplace is important? Anybody? Q, effective communication to understand. Okay, right. Only few students are participating. What about others? What you will do when we'll have sessions here in the class? How can I boost my verbal communication? See, like I said, that, we'll keep last 15 minutes for question and answers, right? To solve number of issues, yes, we can, yes, like you, Ankit, you have answered my question. Ali, I'll get back to you on this, or whosoever has asked. To express yourself, to put your intentions clearly. This course is all about connecting people, right, Neeraj? Very good. Because, your course, it's all about interaction, motivate employees, to motivate your team, right? You need effective communication. Right, without effective communication, not only in your field, in this particular field, I would say at every workplace nowadays, you need to be a good communicator, effective communicator. You have to be a good listener. You have to be a good speaker as well, right? I'm not saying that you cannot mix like two things together, that learning English, knowing English, and communicating effectively. They are two different things, but because of the language usage, we use English so much, we cannot survive without English. We cannot communicate in any other language. That's why we have mixed these things together, that effectively communicate effectively in English. Though they are two different things. Learning English, it's just a language that we have to learn, because we have to communicate in English in our corporate life, in our professional life, at our workplaces. We have to communicate in this language, right? So that's why we have mixed these things together. Otherwise, yes, Shalu, encourage team, reduce conflicts. Definitely, we need effective communication to motivate. If we really want to motivate our team, you need a good, you have to be an effective communicator. Yes. So basically, you understand. Okay. Like if I'll say, I'll give you an example of good and bad communication skills in the workplace. Anger management. There's no doubt, like you said, na, conflict solve karte hain. There's no doubt that conflict will arise when dealing with co-workers, when dealing with your team leader, with your reporting manager, with your manager. So you cannot have doubt about it that you don't have conflicts. You will have conflicts. Conflicts will arise, right? Whenever you'll be dealing with your co-workers, with your subordinates, you have opinion issues, you have difference of opinions, right? So it never helps to hold on to anger or negative emotions. But yes, shouting at work is a sign of poor communication skills, right? Like the boss, if made some mistake over and over again, and he is arrogant that he kept lashing out at the employees. So when you find yourself heated, you can't say anything to your boss that, So when you find yourself heated, so what you can do, you can take deep breaths and count 1 to 30, or count to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So at least when you count, आप react नहीं कर सकते boss को, right? Though your boss is wrong, you do that, but you're not the right person to, to say something to him, right? So what you can do, you can count, and you also feel sometimes that like frustrated, and you really want to yourself heated, you find yourself heated. So what you can do, you can take deep breath and you can count till 10. That's what you can do. So when you count, actually you're not counting numbers, you are giving yourself some time to take charge of your emotions, to control your emotions, so that meanwhile when you're counting from 1 to 10, you'll decide that you're not going to react, you're not going to shout, you're not going to say any negative words, you're not going to you know um, bring out any negative emotion. So when you find yourself heated, take a few deep breaths and count backward from 10 to or 1 to 10 or 10 to 1. So it will calm you enough to speak with less emotion. तो जब आप बात करोगे तो आपका emotion कम होगा उसमें. Right? You can take charge of your emotion if you give yourself few seconds. अगर आप अपने आप को कुछ seconds देते हो तो आप अपने emotions का charge ले लेते हो. You know how to control your emotions. Give yourself some seconds, some minutes. What happens, especially email writing? The moment you receive some email और आपको गुस्सा आया और आपने उसी heat of the moment में आपने email type कर दिया and you hit the send button. Let me tell you, you might regret or you might have the bad consequences. You might need, surely you will have the bad consequences, right? But एक बार email is gone, so it's gone. It's gone forever. It will be there in their inbox. You cannot go and delete it, right? You will get how many seconds you will get it to undo your email? Few seconds. So यही seconds अगर आप अपने reaction से पहले अपने को दो. If you count 1 to 10, 1 to 30, give yourself some time and breathe in, breathe out, take deep breaths and count backward or count from 1 to 10. It will calm you enough to speak or to write with less emotion. Right. Similarly, email etiquette. This is one of the email etiquette. Do not shoot from your mouth. एकदम आपको गुस्सा आया, never write your email. Like I have mentioned it before, it is very difficult to read the tone and inflection. So avoid them at all cost. In professional emails, don't try to be funny or cunning or sarcastic, especially if you're sending these mails to your higher ups. So think before hitting the send button. Is it appropriate? Should I use these words or should I not use these words? Could it be offensive? So keep your mails polite but straightforward to avoid any potential embarrassment. Visual communication. If you're putting your point across quickly and helping others save time, it's again a good example. अगर आप सामने बात कर रहे हो visual communication में, so that is easy. अगर आप वीडियो से बात कर रहे हो, right? So effective communication is pretty simple अगर आपको समझ में आ जाए. अगर आप इसके बारे में सोचो तो effective communication is pretty simple when you think about it, when you understand it, when you know what is effective communication. Effective communication is not only about speaking right English or right language. It is about, it's a mixture of active listening, it's a mixture of observance, it's a mixture of patience, it's a mixture of responding instead of reacting. So just don't overthink it. Remember, all you have to do is try to understand the people around you and get to know them as they get to know you. So when you understand people around you, listen with empathy. I always say to my students that whenever you are listening actively, listening consciously, listening carefully is one thing. But listening with empathy is something that one should learn. So communication is all about the transparency. So be nice and personable, but also be you. You cannot please everybody all the time. You cannot be cheesy all the time. So be you. I'm not asking you to change yourself. I'm just asking you to change your reactions. Instead of reacting, try to respond, right? So we always hear about the communication is imperative. So relationships at the workplace, subordinates, what the effective. So why is communication, like you have given so many answers, okay, communication is very important to resolve conflicts, to put across our message clearly and effectively. So what are the 4 types of communication that we'll be having at the workplace or in our life? The first one is interpersonal, where you share things. Sharing, essentially, interpersonal communication actually refers to the close setting, like your subordinates, your co-workers, right? Where you share personal details, you share things, and listening and speaking. So understanding interpersonal communication is simple and only requires a good ear and the comfort to speak freely. Because you have this interpersonal communication with your subordinates, with your colleagues. Team building, again, employers would be wise to encourage interpersonal communication skills, because if you're an effective communicator, you have team building skills. You can build a team. People will love to be around you. People will listen to you. You can convince people easily. So it's all interrelated. Sharing, listening, speaking, team building, all comes from interpersonal skills. Similarly, non-verbal communication is exactly what it sounds like, communicating without words. Some people, they use the right words, but the non-verbal communication is not appropriate. They say something else, but their non-verbal communicate something else, hidden emotions. So it is very important that we understand non-verbal communication. It often determines the hidden emotions or feelings. Body language, the facial expressions, they are the major component of non-verbal communication. और ये signs are used to read the communicators. आपका जो listener है, आपका जो receiver है message का, वो ये signs read करता है आपके body language के. आपका message का content is something else, but your body language and your tone, your facial expressions contrast में है. So pay attention to your non-verbal communication, but keep an open mind. Because sometimes non-verbal cues are misread. कई बार लोग आपके non-verbals को गलत समझ लेते हैं. Sometimes if you're not able to decide the zone, right, according to the designation or according to the, if somebody is senior to you, if you are talking to your boss, and unknowingly, unintentionally, आप बॉस के पर्सनल जोन में आके खड़े होके आपने बात करने लगे. कॉर्पोरेट कल्चर में ये सारी चीजें बहुत नोटिस होती है. लाइक इफ यू स्टैंडिंग नेक्स्ट टू योर बॉस एंड यू आर नॉट मेंटेनिंग द डिस्टेंस, द जोन, जो आपके डेजिग्नेशन के अकॉर्डिंग या आपका जो रिलेशन है फॉर्मल रिलेशनशिप के अकॉर्डिंग, वो दैट जोन इज नॉट राइट. सो विल बी डिस्कसिंग ऑल दीज थिंग्स इन डिटेल कि कैसे हमें जोन भी अपने प्रोफेशन के हिसाब से, अपने एनवायरमेंट में, अपने वर्किंग प्लेस पे हमें जोन भी डिसाइड करना है. सो कई बार आपका अनइंटेंशनल आई कॉन्टैक्ट, अनइंटेंशनल जोन, आपने जोन देखा ही नहीं, आपका ध्यान नहीं गया और आप ना इतने पास आके बात करने लगे, right? And that is your boss, that is your manager, that is your reporting boss. So he might take it otherwise, though it was unintentional. So sometimes, you don't pay attention to your non-verbal communication, so that means you're not an effective communicator. If you're ignoring your non-verbal cues, because people who are listening to you, who are observing to you, who are there in front of you, who are your receivers, they might decode it wrong. They misread it or misinterpret it. Right? Like suppose I talk about the gaze. If you're talking to any employee, your colleague, your coordinate, your subordinate, and your eye contact is not proper, that means unintentionally you're looking here and there, and the person start correcting himself or herself. So that means there's something wrong with your gaze. Maybe your gaze is making that person uncomfortable. So that means you have to improve your gaze, though it was unintentional. So always make sure that you should pay attention to your non-verbals, because दूसरे लोग इसको गलत decode कर सकते हैं, दूसरे लोग इसको गलत interpret कर सकते हैं. आपकी intention भी वो नहीं थी, but लोगों ने आपका message misinterpret किया, right? And when using or taking part in non-verbal communication, it would be wise to be familiar with the person you are communicating with. राइट कई बार मिसअंडरस्टैंडिंग हो जाती है. तो जब भी आप किसी ऐसे इंसान से बात कर रहे हैं और नॉन वर्बली बात कर रहे हैं, व्हेन यू आर टॉकिंग, टेकिंग पार्ट इन नॉन वर्बल कम्युनिकेशन, सो ये हमेशा बेहतर है दैट यू आर फेमिलियर विद द पर्सन. रिटन कम्युनिकेशन, अगेन आपका नॉन वर्बल आपको ध्यान देना है, बिकॉज नॉन वर्बल कई बार लोग कॉर्पोरेट्स में, लाइक कॉर्पोरेट्स में देयर आर 11 टाइप्स ऑफ हैंडशेक्स. सो अगर आपका हैंडशेक गलत तरीके का था या कुछ और हैंडशेक था आपका, people might misinterpret it, but क्या आपका intention नहीं था, कुछ अलग. Similarly, आपका written communication, क्योंकि this is self-explanatory, but just to clarify, written communication is letters, your emails, your memos, notes, or any which you write to another person. At workplace, you are not going to talk, or you're not going to communicate all the time verbally with somebody. I mean, in person or face to face. So most of the time you'll be writing mails, you'll be writing reports, you'll be writing notes, you'll be writing letters, right? So it's safe. being able to take the time to thoroughly express yourself. You can write clearly, you can express yourself. So it's an opinion or matter of fact that, check your errors. Check कि आपने कोई inappropriate vocabulary तो नहीं use कर दी है. क्योंकि it's again open to misinterpretation. क्योंकि letters में, writing में, non-verbal में, there's lack of personal touch. कोई भी writing document आप देते हो, email आप देते हो, उसमें personal touch missing होता है. So oftentimes emotion creating a cold and distant environment. So written communication can often lead to misinterpretation of tone. कई बार आपकी tone writing की गलत चली जाती है सामने वाले के पास. Every writing has a tone. वो tone आपकी unintentional भी हो सकती है. आपको पता ही नहीं चला कि आपके letter की tone कुछ और थी. So writing में कई बार कुछ चीजें हमें दिखने में same लगती हैं, but उनका tone different होता है. क्योंकि हम उनको बोल नहीं रहे, सिर्फ पढ़ रहे हैं. आपने किस इंटेंशन से लिखा है, सेम इंटेंशन से सामने वाला समझे, इट्स नॉट नेसेसरी. यू आर सच अ जीनियस, यू आर सच अ जीनियस. ये दोनों सेम है, और ये दोनों ही इंसल्ट भी लग सकते हैं अगर हमारे फेशियल एक्सप्रेशन और टोन अगर इसके साथ हैं, राइट. और ये दोनों कॉम्प्लीमेंट भी हो सकता है और इंसल्ट भी हो सकती है. सो वर्ड्स का कोई इंपॉर्टेंस एक्चुअली कम्युनिकेशन में सिर्फ 7% इंपॉर्टेंस होता है. पता है आपको ये बात? That words are only 7% important in your communication. Do you know that? According to Mehraban, he's a psychologist. According to him, the words are only 7% important. Rest, your non-verbal communication and your tone, the tonality, the tone that you use to have a conversation is important. So he has given 7% to words, 58% to 58% to non-verbals, and rest 33 or 34% something to tone. Right? So words, you're surprised that words are only 7% important in your communication. Words जो हैं वो सिर्फ 7% important है हमारे बात करने में. Tone or non-verbal communication is more important than words. Do you know that? जानते थे आप लोग ये बात? Yes, Vivek. क्योंकि if I say something bad to anybody, but if I use a nice tone along with a nice body language, right? So that means that person won't mind my words. 7%, 58%, 35%, right? Exactly. This is according to the Mehraban, right? So he said 50% is the body language, and 7% are only words, and rest 38. Ali, that was 38. That is tone, right? So tone is important. If you say something bad to anybody with a nice tone, with a smile on your face and with the side hug, that person won't mind it. 38%, yes. Thank you, Ali. Yes, so that person won't mind it. But agar aap अच्छा word बोलोगे, गलत tone के साथ, rude tone के साथ, और एक non-verbal के साथ, so that person will take it not otherwise. Definitely he'll give you back. Agree? Tone and non-verbal ka importance more than words. It's clear now? Right. So tone is more important than words. Non-verbal definitely is very important than words. And today I didn't share a PPT because I'll be sharing it in the next session. And I'll be discussing all the tips and tricks how you can improve. Today I have just introduced ke kaise hame, how we can talk, or what is effective communication, hota kya hai effective communication, and why do we need it the workplace pe iska kya importance hai. So all these things we have discussed today, and we'll be having so many sessions, but we have one more webinar on this tips and tricks of effective communication. And one more thing, that when you think there are certain notions in our life, notions about how we are going to behave, how we are going to act, how we are going to converse, how we are going to, many times in our personal life and as well as in our professional lives, हम कैसे behave करेंगे, कैसे converse करेंगे, कैसे, these are notions that we have certain notions, personal life में and professional life में behave करने के लिए, right? So converse करने के लिए, act करने के लिए. So we also have really sweet dreams as how we are going to excel and climb that ladder of success. Agar if you want to climb the ladder of success, we have to be an effective communicator. If your language is the barrier, you cannot communicate just because of the language, so you have to improve it. There's no shortcut, there's no mantra, there's no talisman that one can come and give you. Any teacher, any faculty, any trainer can come and give you the talisman that you have this and you can learn this language in 1 week or 2 weeks or in a month. No, it's not an overnight process. It takes time, and it takes different time for different person, right? You might take 1 month, you might take 6 months, a year, right? So when we know that the language is so important for communication, to effectively communicate, to express ourselves, emotions, intentions, and everything clearly and effectively and efficiently, we have to learn the language. There is no shortcut, there is no mantra. So why we feel stuck, particularly when it comes to what? When it comes to communication skills? No, when it comes to effective communication skills. Don't you think that, things such as basic things, greeting, messages, emails to your managers, to your supervisors, maybe to team members, often becomes a difficult task. कई बार आप लोग feel करोगे ऐसा, I hope नहीं करो, because we will be having sessions, so many in your course. So sometimes you'll feel stuck. You have ideas, you want to write something, you want to share something, but just because of the language, sometimes just because of the lack of confidence, you feel you're stuck somewhere, and you will find it a difficult task, and it will become a difficult task for you, and it will become a very confusing task. How many of you will agree with it? So, when it comes to communicate, especially, are you there? Guys, are you listening? I can't see the screen now. Yeah, yeah. So when it comes to, yeah. Okay, thank you, Shalu. All right. So when it comes to, communicate effectively, you should understand that हम लैंग्वेज की वजह से कई बार स्टक फील करते हैं. अग्री करते हो? हम लोगों को आता है बोलना, हमारे पास आइडियाज हैं, we have thoughts, we have opinions about everything. When we talk in our family, जब हम normal life में बात करते हैं, we have ideas about everything, we have opinions about everything. हर किसी की चीज में बारे में हम बात कर सकते हैं. When it comes to communicate that same thing in this particular language, English, right? We lose confidence. We feel that we are not intelligent. Let me tell you this. कई लोगों को लगता है we are not intelligent because we don't know to express this particular thing in English. It has nothing to do with your confidence. It should not, but it is. So we cannot change it. Abhi we don't know French or American or French or Russian or any other language. We are not ashamed of it, and we never lose confidence because of it. But if we don't know English, we don't know how to communicate in English, then we lose confidence. So whenever you'll be sitting in your conference room, in your boardroom, with your directors, with your managers, with your team, with your subordinates, you have fantastic ideas. But if you're not able to express those ideas, if you're not able to talk about what's going on here, you're not able to share your things, you're not able to put across your things rightly, correctly. People, others will take advantage. If they are good in communications, though they don't have good ideas. Right. So sometimes language is the biggest barrier in effective communication. You know how to communicate. You know how to communicate effectively. It's just that the language is the problem. So the biggest barrier in effective communication, I believe, is speaking English. Most of the students, candidates I have been, seeing and meeting every day. So I realized that they are witty, they're smart, they have humor, they have answers, but just because of the language is the constraint, is the barrier, they do not express themselves the way they can do. Though they can do, but just because of the language, they don't even try, just because they think that they might end up speaking wrong English. They might end up, people will make fun of them, the other students start giggling, right? So now, just because of the language, if you're an effective communicator, English is just a language, you have to learn it, practice it. Give yourself the environment where you can learn this language because you have no choice. You have to communicate in this language, right? So that's all about today's session, right? We'll be having one more session on effective communication where I'll be sharing some tips and tricks related to how you can be an effective communicator. Somebody asked me that, ma'am, how can I improve my verbal verbal communication? Somebody asked me, can you repeat your question, Petra? I'll go and check the chat box. Oh, your question is missing. Beta, can you ask it again, or I'll answer it in the next session, right? So you can improve. I'll share the tips and tricks related how you can improve your language also, how you can improve your speaking English also, because you have to communicate in this language only. You don't have a choice, right? So to communicate effectively, you have to learn this language, and it's not an overnight process. You have to practice, you have to give some time, and you have to be consistent, right? And it was really nice meeting you, those who have participated and those who have not, both. So the students who have, actually motivated me and they helped me to carry on. Thank you so much. Thank you everybody for joining. See you in the next session. Tomorrow we have a session or day after maybe. So yeah, I can see the messages, but I cannot read them. Ma'am, how can I improve my own goal and not stuck in communication? Right? Sometimes we feel that, the messages are here, but we are not able to, maybe we are busy in the translation here, or we stuck. Sometimes we don't know how to, the fluency is not there. Right. So I'll be discussing these things, okay, how we can, connect our ideas, whatever it's here, how we can connect it. फ्लो कैसे आएगा बोलेंगे कैसे राइट सो हेजिटेशन है कुछ इन प्रोनाउंसिएशन गलत ट्रांसलेट करेंगे ट्रांसलेट करके बोलेंगे सो देयर आर सो मेनी बैरियर्स हियर so we have to remove those obstacles and barriers to communicate in English, right? Hesitation, right? You don't need to hesitate. No, a native speaker hesitate before speaking English. They are least bothered about the grammar, right? But what we do, the new learners of the language, they try to translate everything here. You don't need to do that. First of all, you have to listen to the language. किसी भी language को learn करने का, सीखने का सबसे important step और सबसे पहला step is listening. जैसे हमने अपनी native language याद की है, समझी है, पहले observe किया है, we observed our parents and then we imitated them. And then we learn the language. Before writing and before reading, we have started speaking. But speaking se bhi pehle, we started listening, right? So listen to the language that you want to learn, you have to listen to that language. The more you will listen, the more you'll be able to speak clearly. All right, so it was very nice meeting you, everybody. Thank you. See you in another session. Bye. Have a nice day. Thank you. Thank you, Ali. Thank you, Pratibha. Thank you, Vikram. Bye. Thank you, Shalu. Thank you, everyone. Sarthak, Akansha. Thank you. Thank you for responding, Beta. Thank you, Abhishek. Bye. See you then. Thank you, Tanya.